Since I started watching Stardom, I felt like the focus on stories wasn't really their strongest point. They like to make their feuds be more subtle and more of a character trait than a storyline. Feuds in Stardom are rarely the focal point, and instead we get some pretty great stories every now and then, and the rest is just people who don't like each other for some reason. The best example for either side of the spectrum would be Queen's Quest vs. Oedo Tai, and Natsuko Tora vs. Tam Nakano. Queen's Quest and Oedo Tai have been feuding for a very long time, with their hatred for each other slowly building over time and occasionally popping into a giant match with serious consequences. This feud in Stardom is the perfect example of one involving a nice build and a story at the forefront of the feud. Natsuko vs. Tam is the other example of types of feuds in Stardom. The out-of-nowhere, no-reason-for-it feud. Let me start this by saying that, for all we know, they might have built the foundation for this feud through Twitter or press conferences. Unfortunately, 99% of anything from these women on Twitter is in Japanese, and the press conferences are not subtitled or shown for the most part. So while there might be a reason for this feud, from what was shown to me as a foreign viewer, there isn't one. So in this video, I will be talking about the active rivalries and feuds going on in Stardom at present day. I will give a condensed summary of each one and not be going too much into it. Now, while I do know a lot about present day Stardom, I am not perfect and may very well miss something, so if I do, let me know. So let's get into this. These won't be in any particular order, just whichever ones come to my head first while I was writing this script. Queen's Quest vs. Oedo Tai. This one has to be the main rivalry everyone thinks about first when talking about feuds. This one is almost as old as Queen's Quest themselves. It was destined to happen with Io Shirai leading a couple arrogant up-and-comers and Kagetsu treating wrestling like a game. Io Shirai and Kagetsu are the perfect type of people to rub each other the wrong way. Io Shirai sees wrestling as such a serious thing that someone like Kagetsu is bound to get on her nerves. Hazuki never seemed to be too bothered at all by Oedo Tai shenanigans compared to the rest of the team, which could be why she so easily fit into Oedo Tai later on. While Oedo Tai and Queen's Quest have always kind of butted heads, I personally feel like their feud really didn't kick into high gear until the return of Momo Watanabe. When Momo came back, she came back with a huge chip on her shoulder and basically sparked a semi-feud between these two groups into a full-blown faction war. On November 4th, 2017, Momo Watanabe returned from injury and lost her first match back to Chris Wolf after interference by Oedo Tai. This made Momo go ballistic, and since then Oedo Tai was much more aware of Queen's Quest, as Queen's Quest seemed to put their plans on hold to personally punish Oedo Tai. This turned out to be a huge mess up for Oedo Tai, as the result of poking the bear ended with them losing a member by force. On January 21st, 2018, Tam Nakano was forced to leave Oedo Tai after being pinned by Momo Watanabe in a loser leaves their faction match. This action alone was enough to cement the lifelong feud between these factions and actually resulted in a couple other feuds that budded from this event. This wouldn't be the last time these two butt heads either. Later on, the feud took a casualty from Queen's Quest when Kagetsu chose Hazuki in the draft, causing Hazuki to have to join Oedo Tai and leave her faction behind. Some suspect that one of the reasons Kagetsu did this was to get back at Queen's Quest for taking Tam away from them earlier in the year. There is no proof that this is the case, but I could see it having some foundation. Things would be heated between these two for a while, until very recently when they started fighting again over some stolen property. Sumire stole Queen's Quest's flag and Izumi's mask. This currently is still ongoing at the time I'm writing this, so I don't know if it will be solved by the time this video comes out. After everything these two factions have done to each other, I just cannot see anything settling the feud. I believe as long as there is an Oedo Tai and Queen's Quest, they will be feuding. Hazuki vs. Momo Watanabe. One of the biggest feuds to be created out of the previous rivalry is Hazuki versus Momo. Once really great friends, and now they are on opposing teams, and Hazuki has a huge grudge. With Io Shirai gone, Momo Watanabe was the unfortunate one to get Hazuki's wrath. Maybe these feelings have always been there, just manifesting as competition between teammates at the time. I personally think this one has the best potential out of all of the 1v1 feuds to really be amazing. These are two very young, incredibly gifted wrestlers, and they started feuding not too long ago. One day this feud is going to lead to a title match for the red belt at Carrick Hall. As of right now, this seems to be more of a one-sided hate though, as I don't feel like Momo actually has too many negative feelings towards Hazuki yet. I feel like this entire feud is one person holding a grudge on someone who doesn't deserve it, and Momo just being upset that things have turned out this way. I think it's definitely going to turn sour though, as Hazuki is doing all she can to make Momo hate her, constantly poking fun at Momo for being heavier than most of the other wrestlers. When Momo finally snaps back, it's going to be one hell of an entertaining feud. Azumi versus Natsu Sumire. This one is the newest of the feuds, and it kind of came out of nowhere. If you really think about it, you could say it was all being set up over the last couple of months, but I'm not too sure. Azumi has always been disrespectful to pretty much everybody, even her elders, which is one of the reasons Azumi is so awesome. She has no problem calling anybody above the age of 20 a grandma. I think Sumire was the perfect target for her, since Sumire is one of the two most vain people in Stardom. So we have this 26-year-old attractive woman who constantly gets into shouting matches with a 16-year-old girl. Sumire calling her names like brat, while Azumi going for the jugular and saying things like ugly grandma. Azumi is still young enough that Sumire is considered somewhat of a threat to her. Sumire isn't exactly the best wrestler out there, but Azumi is a better wrestler overall than she is in my opinion. This personal feud is one of the many feuds that stem from Oedo Tai vs. Queen's Quest. It's what sparked the current battle between the two groups. Hana Kimura vs. Oedo Tai. Now this one right here is too new to really have any details, so this one is going to be pretty short. Hana has been gone from Stardom for a very long time and just recently returned. Everyone thought it was a good thing, but apparently Hana's trip made her reevaluate her priorities. On her return, she purposely hit Kagetsu on September 9th, 2018. There are times when teammates hit each other on accident, but this time it was on purpose. Everyone knew, Kagetsu knew, and Hana knew that Kagetsu knew. Things died down for a bit, and then later during the September 24th show, Hana showed her true colors again, interfering in Kagetsu's 5-star Grand Prix match and causing her loss. As of writing this, I don't know what Hana's plans are, but it's looking to be a pretty good story that I'm excited about. John vs. Stars. This one doesn't have as much history behind it like Queen's Quest vs. Oedo Tai, but it's looking to be a pretty great one for different reasons. While Queen's Quest vs. Oedo Tai is great because you have all these great wrestlers who hate each other, John vs. Star is great because of the conflicting styles of the two teams. Stars is made up of pretty much all of the high-flying, high-speed faces of the company, while John is made up of all the power wrestlers in the company. This means a lot of great matches where John is trying to break Stars, and Stars is using their agility to outmaneuver John. This whole faction rivalry started because of the Stardom draft. You see, John used to be a group called Team Jungle, led by Jungle Kyona. When the Stardom draft happened, Team Jungle was not recognized as their own group and was lumped into Stars. So during the draft, not a single team picked any of the members from Team Jungle, resulting in Mayu saying that she will just take the rest. This understandably hurt and upset Jungle and Natsuko, resulting in them rebelling against Stars and challenging them to a match. When Team Jungle won, they announced their departure from Stars and changed their name to Jungle Assault Nation, or John for short. This feud has simmered down a bit, but in my opinion, it's still currently happening. One of the things about this feud is that it's a feud where both sides believe they are the ones who were wronged. John feels unwanted and disrespected by Stars because of Mayu's assumption that they would be okay with being the leftovers for her new group, while Mayu feels betrayed because she saw them as part of Stars and feels like they stabbed her in the back by leaving. Maybe one day this feud will have as much history and drama as Queen's Quest vs. Oedo Tai, but until then it's pretty tame since the initial battles. Natsuko Tora vs. Tam Nakano. This has got to be one of my favorite rivalries going on right now. It just came out of nowhere and blew everyone out of the water. The only downside to this match is that I don't know why it's happening. Just one match, Tam and Natsuko were being a little more vicious to each other and giving the stink eyes. Ever since then, Tam and Natsuko will just about tear each other apart while they are in the ring together. On May 3rd, 2018, we can see the start of the beginning of Natsuko's attitude causing conflicts within Stars. June 10th is really when things started heating up between these two. Ever since then, these two have tried to maim each other in the ring, and I gotta be honest, I'm loving it. I've always been a fan of Tam, and Natsuko worked her way up to being one of my favorites in Stardom right now. When these two are in the ring together, they have chemistry. Seriously, they elevate each other up about 100 spots when wrestling against one another. Right now, this is one of those ongoing, not focused feuds that just boost other storylines. Hopefully, this becomes much bigger and they get a long singles match on the big stage in the future. Azumi vs. Starlight Kid. The two future leaders of Stardom have been feuding from pretty much the beginning of Starlight Kid's career. These two are going to be battling their whole careers, so it makes sense they would have some kind of relationship. So far, this rivalry has been dominated by Starlight Kid, with her being the clear victor so far. Azumi has never been able to beat Starlight Kid in a singles match. The problem is that these two are the only ones their age that are that skilled. They have the ability to compete with the older girls, but their age stops them, so they are stuck together for now. I think there is too much history between the two of them to just stop the feud once they can legitimately compete with the main roster. Most likely this feud will continue, with Azumi beating Starlight Kid for the future belt, thus making Azumi have the upper hand for the first time. Jungle Kyona vs. Utami Hayashishita. This one is the last and most debatable on this list, because it is very likely that there isn't a feud here at all. I personally think that there is at least a budding rivalry or feud here. I don't think it's a coincidence that these two have met in singles combat twice, and tied both times. Jungle Kyona is the #1 power wrestler of Stardom. Utami's goal is to be on top and has a power style. Jungle has been on a slippery slope lately, unable to beat the new rookie, got beaten by her disciple Natsuko, and lost the triple belts that has defined her team for the last couple months. I feel like Jungle is on the verge of snapping, and I think Utami might have been the catalyst to that. They really haven't shown too much disdain for each other, but there is definitely some feelings from Jungle towards Utami of the negative kind. These were the only feuds and or rivalries that I could think of. If I did miss any that are currently going on, let me know in the comments. I feel like really fleshed out storylines are pretty rare in Stardom, but what they do best is setting up feuds where two wrestlers just want to try to kill each other. You can tell how passionate these wrestlers are about their profession when just a simple story of "I hate you, you hate me" is enough to elevate their matches. Out of everything that happened this year, one of my favorite things is the out-of-nowhere hate-filled feud between Tam Nakano and Natsuko Tora. Tam has always been one I enjoyed watching from the very beginning. But Natsuko I didn't think was ever going to impress me. I'm happy to say that both are people I look forward to every show now. With Hanen's sisters debuting soon, and Arisa Hoshiki returning, I feel like things are going to be shaken up really soon. Stardom is about to start looking pretty different.